Greetings, and welcome to this brief introduction to Plato's Republic, Book 10. The question of Book 10 is why? Why does Book 10 even happen? Back in Book 2, Glaucon and Adeimantus had demanded that Socrates defend justice by showing that it is good in itself for the just man. At the end of Book 9, that demand has been satisfied. The just life, that is, philosophy, has been shown to be the best life. The just man, that is, the philosopher, has been shown to be happiest. What more needs to be said? If Book 1 was a not strictly speaking necessary introduction to the substance of the Republic, Books 2 through 9, then Book 10 is an altogether unexpected, strictly speaking unnecessary, even unlooked for addendum to that substance. But Socrates chooses to add it. Socrates leads Glaucon through three topics in Book 10: poetry, the soul, and the afterlife. First, poetry. Again, we have to ask why. Why take up a topic that we thought we had settled in Book 3 for a city whose founding was finished in Book 7 and which was laid up in heaven at the end of Book 9? Why? Because poetry is the language even of the most just city. Not only the virtuous poetry that Socrates does allow, its very constitution is founded upon an image of the soul. The noble lie is its grossest form. Every city, the city in speech and the city of speech, is a cave with its poetry. Socrates and Plato engage in imitative poetry all the time. But here Socrates underscores how irreconcilable are the city and the philosopher. Poetry, he argues, degrades the mind. It makes images and attaches us to these images. So far from inhabiting the world of ideas, we cannot even see the things that are. But poetry is also often about longing and loss and death. It does show us something of what is. Here's a hint of the way to move from images to things. Second topic, the soul. The image that grounds the city is an image of the soul. Indeed, each of the other cities are also constituted upon some image of the soul. But no city knows what soul is. Justice claims to be good for the soul or in the soul, my soul. But justice is so great, it must be for what lasts far longer than a human life, for all time. The soul must be immortal, which Socrates proves by not finding any reason for it to die. Here at the center of Book 10 is an intimation of a problem. Immortal soul, he argues, cannot be infinite in number. There's a limited number of immortal souls, maybe just one. Soul must be recycled. My soul is not only mine, not really me. Socrates backs quickly away from this precipice and returns to, quote, repay the wages of justice, the external benefits that justice brings, a repayment that we notice that was never asked for or expected, nor did Socrates promise to make it. His choice here again underscores that this entire book is Socrates' voluntary addition to the Republic. Now, the most impressive wages come in the afterlife. And the story of the afterlife, Socrates entrusts to a complete unknown from another country far away who lived long ago. That is, Socrates doesn't vouch for it. The story, known as the myth of air, shows souls living after death, being judged for their deeds during this life, and somehow being sentenced to bodily punishments or delights for 1,000 years. Then returning to limbo to choose a new life, and finally passing through the river of forgetfulness to be born again. This is obviously Socrates' poetry, his comical version of the story of the philosopher's ascent from and descent back to the cave. In other words, this life is the cave. Philosophy is dying and being dead. The best you can do here is find a good teacher. After all, while your shade will have a choice of life, you don't. Your life has been chosen. All of this takes place under the gaze of necessity. Socrates' muses are the Fates, who sing hymns to their mother. With the exception of the worst tyrants, there is no eternal damnation, nor eternal bliss. There is no place for prayer. Gods do not determine our fate. We do. So what does Socrates achieve here in Book 10, his book of choice? He underscores the distance between the philosopher and the city on the basis of poetry. He reveals what looks like the most sober account of death and the afterlife that a city could accept. And he points to the ground for the distance, the soul. The Republic ends with that greatest of mysteries. Thank you for joining this brief introduction to Plato's Republic, Book 10.